Once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. I hope you're having a lovely day. My day is stellar so far. Why? Well, first of all, Bruce Orr is out at the DOJ. John Solomon told us yesterday there was going to be some news about Bruce Orr, and he certainly did not disappoint. But the first thing we're going to talk about is these newly released emails and images from Hunter Biden's laptop. It proves conclusively that Joe Biden did use his power and influence for the benefit of Burisma and his son Hunter, and that he met Burisma board members. So he lied about his knowledge and relationship with Burisma as a whole. And we're also going to be touching on a story about the FBI saying that hackers have gained access to U.S. election systems. This sounds like a setup to me, so that whoever wins the election, they can say, oh, look, it was hacked. But we're going to go over all of this and more, so please sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. People everywhere are swearing by keto. I use it myself. You can ask Real Red Pill Girlfriend. The diet is being praised around the world because it's wildly effective at boosting metabolism, elevating energy, and enhancing mental focus. If you want the benefits of elevated ketone levels without having to actually do the difficult parts of the keto diet, you're going to want Keto Elevate. Keto Elevate is the most advanced MCT powder on the market today. Keto Elevate powerfully supports ketone production whether you follow the keto diet or not. That's right, it can help elevate ketone levels even without the strict no-carb policy. Grab your own bag for 51% off and free shipping by going to ketowithredpill.com or by visiting the link in the description or pinned comment below. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. As some of you know, I've been on a keto diet, but I'm not going to lie, it is not easy to cut all those carbs out of your life. Every now and then, I do end up breaking it, so a strict keto diet just isn't for me. But that's why I started taking Keto Elevate, because in less than a month on Keto Elevate, I started noticing increased energy, better appetite control, more youthful-looking skin, and a noticeable boost in mental clarity. I just add a scoop of it to my morning drink, that's usually coffee, and there's never any taste, odor, or clumps. I can cheat just a little bit, I still have the occasional carbs, but unlike a typical keto diet, I'm still able to support elevated ketone levels and their many benefits, despite having just a few carbs in my diet. Now you can get your own bag for 51% off plus free shipping by going to ketowithredpill.com or visit the link in the pinned comment or description below. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today, we have got to talk about these latest revelations in the Hunter and Joe Biden Burisma saga. Smoking gun emails have been released which prove that Joe Biden lied about his knowledge of Hunter's business dealings. Emails newly released alongside pictures of Hunter taking shirtless selfies and sleeping with some type of glass pipe in his mouth show conclusively that Hunter introduced Joe Biden to a senior Burisma advisor named Vadim Pojarskia with the express purpose of seeing what Joe could do to help, using his power and influence as the vice president of the United States of America for the legally troubled natural gas firm where Hunter sat as a board member. Now, one of those emails reads, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spent some time together. It's realty an honor and pleasure." Now, clearly he meant it's really an honor and a pleasure. Now, another email from 2014 shows Pozarski, who at the time was the number 3 board member at Burisma, asking Hunter how he could use his power and influence to benefit the company. Now, of course, we know that Biden later did use his power and influence to withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees to the Eastern European country if they did not fire prosecutor Viktor Shokin, who at that time was running a criminal investigation into Burisma and Hunter himself. Now, the irony is that these emails were recovered from a discarded laptop, which had been taken to a Delaware computer recovery facility in April of 2019. The owner of that facility discovered the emails and the other salacious material on the hard drive while making a backup, and he quickly notified the FBI, who seized seized it under subpoena. But he made a copy and he gave it to none other than Rudy Giuliani, our man. Now, Steve Bannon actually tipped off the New York Post back in September, who broke the story initially, and Giuliani eventually passed the drive along. Now, the other salacious material includes a 12-minute video of Hunter and an unknown woman performing intimate acts while Hunter smokes crack, along with other explicit images. Let's take a look at the story from the Post because there's a lot to see. All right, so here is the bombshell report itself from the New York Post. As I said, back in September, Steve Bannon tipped off the Post, and then it was Rudy Giuliani who then passed the drive on to the reporter at the Post. Knowing that they've had this information for over a year now, think about how confident Rudy Giuliani was about the dirty dealings of the Biden family. This goes to show that these people were well read in. Also, you have to remember back on Sunday when President Trump said that something breathtaking was going to be coming out. Perhaps this was it. Now, we've got the emails themselves, and there's actually a PDF that was embedded into this story. But Hunter, his father, they both were talking about Burisma on a regular basis, and Hunter was using his influence as the son of the vice president to see what he could do to help out Burisma. Hunter was reportedly getting that salary of up to $50,000 a month, but we've also seen deposits as high as $83,333.33. Now, here is that email from 2014 where Pozharskyi thanks Hunter for introducing him to his dad. He actually went to D.C. and had dinner with Joe and Hunter. And he says that he wants to meet again for a quick coffee. What do you think? I could come to your office somewhere around noon or so before I'm on my way to the airport. Now, once again, this completely destroys the narrative from Joe Biden that he and his son never spoke about his overseas business dealings at Burisma. This, in fact, shows conclusively that they definitely did. Now, as a result of this story breaking today, Joe Biden called a lid. Boom. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. He is staying in his basement for the rest of the day. I would probably gather for the rest of the week. I don't think he's going to come out. Now, as I stated, there is that 12-minute intimate video, which includes Hunter and this unknown woman performing various acts. The entire time, he is actually lighting up that glass pipe that you saw, and it is a rather disturbing thing to imagine. I probably should have said trigger warning for anybody that has substance abuse issues at the beginning of this story. Now, the customer who brought this water-damaged MacBook into the repair place never paid for the service. They never retrieved it, and they never asked for the hard drive. They never even stated what was on it, but the shop owner said that they repeatedly tried to contact them. Now, photos of a Delaware federal subpoena were given to the New York Post. Here is that subpoena right there. This is for the demand of the hard drive. There is page 1. And it looks like it included that Apple MacBook Pro laptop computer, as well as the Western Digital external hard drive. That wasn't even the hard drive internally. That was the external hard drive. And here it is showing that the labor is done, but they never picked it up. And it actually says bill to Hunter Biden. So it sounds like it was Hunter himself who dropped off the laptop. Now, thank goodness that Robert Costello, the savvy shop owner at the repair facility, made a copy of that hard drive before handing it over to the FBI. He knew exactly how big it was. And it is no mistake that he decided to give it to Rudy Giuliani, because Rudy is the one man in America that would be able to get this taken care of. Now, some more information from the hard drive. Less than 8 months after Pozharskyi thanked Hunter Biden for introducing him to his father, Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States. That is when Joe Biden admittedly pressured Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko and Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk into getting rid of Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin by threatening to withhold that $1 billion loan guarantee during that December 2015 trip. Joe said it himself in his own words. "I looked at them and said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money." And then he said, well, son of a bee, he got fired. Now, Shokin said at the time of his firing in March 2016, he'd made specific plans to investigate Burisma. That included interrogations and other crime investigation procedures into all members of the executive board, which of course included Hunter Biden. Now, Joe insisted that the entire U.S. government wanted to get rid of Shokin for corruption corruption reasons, which were shared by the European Union. But as far as I can tell, and probably the rest of the people watching this, Viktor Shokin was the only person looking into corruption in the Ukraine. Now, here is another email dated from May 12th of 2014. This is shortly after Hunter joined Burisma, and it shows that Pozharsky was attempting to get him to use his political power to leverage it to help Burisma. Now, the message had a subject line that said urgent issue, so you can tell he really wanted to get the message across. It was sent to Hunter's business partner at the time, Devon Archer, as well. He also sat on the Burisma board. Now, it starts off, following our talks during the visit to Lake Como and our further discussions, I would like to bring the following situation to you. And it talks about how the authorities are essentially coming after Burisma. And of course, Pozharsky is saying that he did nothing wrong, Burisma's done nothing wrong, this is all a plot to destroy the company, and if they are successful in destroying Burisma, then many people are going to be without natural gas. But the specific part where he asks for Hunter to use his influence, we urgently need your advice on how you could use your influence to convey a message, signal, etc., to stop what we consider to be politically motivated actions, bearing in mind the following. And then he goes into the reasons why they should not be shut down. But they were involved in corruption, and that's why Shokin was going on with the investigation. Now, Pozharsky said that the representatives of new authorities in power tend to quite aggressively approach NZ unofficially with the aim to obtain cash from him. NZ isn't identified in the email, but appears to be a reference to Burisma founder Mykola Zlochevsky, whose first name is a Ukrainian version of Nicholas. Now, when the shakedown failed, they proceeded with concrete actions in the form of one or more potential proceedings. And that's when he asked for that advice. And that's when he asked for that help with Hunter Biden's power. Now, Hunter responded by saying he was with Archer in Doha, Qatar, and asked for more information about the formal, if any, accusations being made against Burisma. He said, who is ultimately behind these attacks on the company? Who in the current interim government could put an end to such attacks? Now, the exchange came on the same day that Burisma announced it had expanded its board of directors by adding Biden, who was put in charge of its legal unit and will provide support for the company among international organizations. Hunter actually joined the board back in April of 2014, so that was a lie right there. Now, his lawyer said last year that Hunter was not a member of the management team, adding at no time was Hunter in charge of the company's legal affairs. So it sounds like they stated that in the press release to maybe scare anybody who was looking to come after them with any legal stuff. Now then, in September of 2014, in an email, Pozharsky said he was going to share the information with the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, as well as the office of Mr. Amos Hochstein in the States. At the time, Hochstein was the State Department's newly appointed special envoy and coordinator in international energy affairs. In December of 2017, the Naftgaz Group, Ukraine's state-owned energy company, announced that Hochstein had joined the company as an independent director, but on Monday, he announced his resignation. That is very interesting. The company has been forced to spend endless amounts of time combating political pressure and efforts by oligarchs to enrich themselves through questionable transactions, Hochstein wrote in an op-ed published by the Kyiv Post. Now, in addition to denying that he had spoken to Hunter about his overseas business dealings, Joe also repeatedly denied any conflict of interest or wrongdoing with either of them and their involvement in Burisma. Now, last February, in an exchange with Savannah Guthrie on NBC's Today Show, he got a little bit testy. She asked if it was wrong for Hunter to take that position, knowing that really what the Burisma board wanted was access to Joe Biden. And he said, well, that's not true. You're saying things you don't know what you're talking about, the elder Biden responded. All right, so here are those images from the hard drive of the Hunter Biden. And obviously, this is the only things we can show because everything else is a little too saucy for YouTube. All right, so wrapping it up on this, obviously the information contained in this laptop is damning. It's just another example of conclusive evidence of how Joe and Hunter Biden are using their power and influence to trade all around the world and try to make as much money as they possibly can. And Hunter clearly needs to go to rehab. You know, anybody who's struggling with substance abuse issues, go get yourself some help. You can live a better life afterwards. And now, since this story has come out, the mainstream media has been running interference for the Bidens, as well as tech companies like Facebook. Let's talk about that. All right, so before I show you this MSDNC hack running interference for Hunter and Joe Biden, let's take a listen in Joe Biden's own words discussing the way he and his son never talked about Burisma.
How many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
He's never spoken to him about his overseas business dealings. Well, the emails tell a different story. Now, they can say as much as they want that these emails are not real, but here's the thing. You can check that stuff. It's pretty easy to be able to figure out whether or not the emails are real. If it was just a printout, then it might be a little bit more difficult. But you actually have the digital fingerprint right there on that hard drive, and Joe certainly does have some explaining to do. Now, that MSDNC hack, that is this guy right here, Kyle Griffin. Now, he said on Twitter, no one should link to or share that New York Post report. You can discuss the obvious flaws and unanswerable questions in the report without amplifying what appears to be disinformation. Well, Kyle, guess what? As I stated, we can go ahead and verify all that information, and Joe is going to have to make a statement on everything that has just come out. So although Kyle may like to believe it's disinformation, the evidence is going to say otherwise. He says, a reminder, the president was impeached for his attempts to fabricate lies about Joe Biden and Ukraine. Kyle, when are you going to be impeached for attempting to make up lies about the president? Now, Byron York responded. He said, a strict policy. Never believe or pass on news from sketchy sources. Never. Unless it's a secret recording of the president or the first lady or the national security advisor or tax returns or a dossier or a P-tape or head of state called transcripts or and on and on and on. Perfectly underscoring the hypocrisy among the liberal media talking heads like Kyle Griffin. Now, let's see how Facebook is trying to cover this up for the Bidens. Well, it would appear that Facebook's director of communications is running interference in this U.S. election. They are censoring the Hunter Biden bombshell story so that they can run cover for Joe Biden. Now, after everything I've told you, don't you think that the American people deserve to hear this story so that they can make up their own minds? It's one thing to have an anonymous source who says the president did this or somebody told me that this happened, and bring it forward with no evidence. But see, the thing is, whenever that happens, the liberal mainstream media is more than happy to dish that out. They are the true purveyors of fake news in this country. They themselves are working for the DNC and the Democrat Party and for the Biden campaign, doing everything they can to perpetuate the coup that is attempting to remove and stop President Donald Trump from doing his constitutional duty to protect this nation and her people. And this is just an incredible story. So Facebook's comm director, Andy Stone, said that the tech giant will be reducing its distribution of the Hunter Biden bombshell report before its third-party fact-checkers comb over the story. So before they let their fact-checkers go to work, they're going to proactively block and censor the story so that they can protect Joe Biden. This is the tweet from Andy Stone. And he says, while I intentionally not link to the New York Post, see that predictive programming, they're telling you over and over, don't link to the story, don't share the story, because they know it's true, and this could bring down the Biden regime right now. He says, I want to be clear that this story is eligible to be fact-checked by Facebook's third-party fact-checking partners. In the meantime, we are reducing its distribution on our platform. What do you want to bet? That even if it is fact-checked by their third-party fact-checkers and they find out that the emails are correct and that all of these meetings actually took place and that Joe Biden lied and that Hunter Biden took pictures of himself with that pipe in his mouth with an unnamed female accomplice, they're still not going to allow it to be distributed. Now, Molly Hemingway weighed in. She said, holy bleeping bleep, Facebook explicitly admitting it is protecting Biden and interfering in the presidential election by censoring media outlets and limiting discussion of today's breaking news about Biden's engagement with Burisma. Now, Senator Josh Hawley also weighed in. He blasted Facebook for censoring this story. He said, so Facebook is going to actively censor a New York Post investigative story on the Democrat candidate for president. But rest assured, Facebook is a neutral platform with no political viewpoints. Facebook, I want to know on what grounds you are actively censoring a news report about potentially illegal corruption by the Democrat candidate for president. If you have evidence this is disinformation, disclose it immediately. Expect a formal inquiry from my office. Boom. Josh Hawley is awesome, and I think that guy has a very bright future in American politics. Thank you so much to the New York Post. Thank you so much to Rudy Giuliani. Thank you so much to the computer repair shop owner for bringing this information forward. This is illegal activity. activity. Okay, this is corruption of the highest order, and this is something that the American people deserve to have reported to them. And we don't need groups like Facebook or MSDNC or their liberal media hack talking heads telling us what we can and cannot share, or what we can and cannot read and decide for ourselves. Now, some more information leaked from this hard drive. It appears that there was a conference call that Obama and his administration held, which was then leaked to Burisma. It's from the Biden emails. They let Blue Star Strategies, this Democratic PR company that was working for Ukrainian energy firm Burisma at the time, take part in the conference call about this upcoming visit to Ukraine by then Vice President Joe Biden. Now, it appears that this conference call was discussing the actual visit to Ukraine, whereby Biden refused to give that $1 billion in loan guarantees unless Viktor Shokin got fired. Now, the minutes for this meeting were then sent to Burisma, and Pozharsky, the guy that was emailing with Hunter Biden about his relationship with him and his father, Joe. Now, Devon Archer also received the information from the meeting, and he asked that Blue Star Strategies contract be countersigned and then sent back to him. Now, Blue Star Strategies first started working for Burisma back in November of 2015, and they were communicating regularly with Hunter Biden, Devon Archer, and Eric Schwerin, who were presidents at the Rosemont Seneca Partners investment firm. Now, of course, those guys were the founders of Rosemont Seneca Partners, along with former Secretary of State John Kerry's stepson, Christopher Hines. Now, the email itself said, "Could you kindly have BS, Blue Star, countersign it and forward back to me? I'm kindly asking you to schedule either a conference call or advise us to the foreseen action plan for November to December 2015. And if anything has already been done by Blue Star, could you kindly ask them to share us this information?" And perhaps it was that conference call right there that they then shared. Now, Blue Star has not had any comments related to this. All right, that's enough about Hunter and Joe and Ukraine. Let's move on to Bruce Orr. So last night, we got this little gem from John Solomon on Fox Business. Let's take a listen.
I can tell you tonight there's going to be another release of documents in the next 24 hours related to Bruce Orr's interviews with the FBI, what they were pumping him for information to go around the ban that they had on Christopher Steele when they fired him. So we're going to get that information soon as well.
Now remember, Bruce Orr was the point man for Christopher Steele at the DOJ. He had been kind of banned from doing business with the federal government, but they were using him as this intermediary so that they could get around that. Well, something did pop off today with Bruce Orr. Let's take a look. And it looks like Christopher Steele's back channel and coup plotter Bruce Orr is finally out at the DOJ. He had been demoted previously, but now he is officially gone. He actually resigned from the Justice Department a day before he was going to be fired. He must have heard about this incoming D-class, and he said, "You know what? Peace, I'm out." Now remember, Bruce Orr worked as that back channel, linking Christopher Steele and the dossier to the FBI after Steele had been terminated by the FBI back in 2016. Catherine Herridge made this statement on Twitter. She said Bruce Orr is no longer working at the DOJ. He resigned the day before he was going to be terminated by the DOJ over his conduct cited in the IG Horowitz report. Well, it's about darn time. When is he going to be indicted for that behavior? He was the top official at the DOJ, working as an assistant deputy AG, and was ultimately demoted twice for his connection to Steele and for promoting that phony dossier. You can't forget that his wife, Nellie Orr, was contracted by the opposition research firm Fusion GPS to assist in the cultivation of opposition research on President Trump, and her hubby, Bruce, passed along her Hillary Clinton DNC-funded dirt to the FBI, which was then used to create a whole host of media articles so that they could use those articles to cite for the FISA warrants that they gathered illegally on everyone in the Trump team. One of those people was Carter Page. They used the phony dossier to get that warrant on Carter Page, and Judicial Watch had previously obtained DOJ documents showing that Bruce Orr received a larger bonus during the Russiagate investigation than he did the previous year, and he even got a raise after he was demoted. That does not sound right. Those DOJ documents revealed Bruce received a $28,000 bonus in November 2016. That's just shortly after that first FISA warrant was granted on the Trump advisor Carter Page. Now, why was Bruce Orr rewarded for his participation in the Russiagate scandal? He received another $2,600 pay increase after he was demoted the first time and reassigned from his positions. We just want to know why it took so long for Bruce to get fired and why he was allowed to stay at the DOJ for so long. Once again, I'm going to suggest perhaps it was because they were watching him and they wanted to see who he communicated with and what types of illegal activity he would be involved in after he had received that demotion. Imagine if he was a back channel for Christopher Steele, he was probably a back channel for other people as well. I would say that Bruce Orr, once he came onto the radar of federal investigators, they probably tapped his phones, his emails, and they listened to absolutely everything. Even his conversations with his Clowns in America wife, Nellie Orr. And finally, you might be able to hear my eyes rolling at the news of this, but the FBI is claiming that hackers have gained access to U.S. election systems. Be afraid. Be very afraid. The FBI and DHS have claimed hackers have gained access to U.S. election systems nationwide. Now, it's unclear who the so-called hackers are, but the FBI has labeled them as advanced persistent threat actors. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has said there is no evidence elections data was hacked and that it does not appear these targets are being selected because of their proximity to elections information. Fox News said hackers, possibly nation-state actors, have penetrated U.S. government networks and accessed election systems, and that is from the FBI and the CISA. They said it in a joint alert. Now, it goes on to list a number of vulnerabilities that were used to attack these computer systems, and it says that they targeted a VPN vulnerability and a flaw in NetLogon, which is a Windows protocol to authenticate users. Now, mail-in ballot chaos, ballot harvesting, and now vague claims of hackers compromising U.S. election systems, it's all being done to further delegitimize the election process. I'm telling you guys, there is no more secure way than to walk into a ballot station on November 3rd, cast your paper ballot, give it to them, and make sure you get the confirmation. I don't trust electronic voting. I don't trust electronic voting. I don't trust mail-in ballots, and I certainly am not going to hand my ballot off to anybody unless I'm inside an election center. You guys know what to do. November 3rd, we need to bring Trump home for a second term. All right, guys, that is truly all I have for you today. Don't forget, I have another episode of Red Pill News coming out tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then at 6, we're going to start streaming our second MAGA meetup. That's going to be going until 11 p.m. We are going to be broadcasting President Trump's rally, so tune in, hang out with us. We're going to have a bunch of special secret guests. I will tell you this, Methods is definitely going to be there. All right, guys, as always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zak the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Make sure you hit that notification bell and always consider liking and sharing this show on your favorite social media platform. If you guys want to support the channel more directly, there are ways to do that in the description below. I appreciate everything you guys have done. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.